have an amazing guest on today, business consultant extraordinaire, that's going to show you how to, do business differently, think differently, even on vacations, and just be the baller that you are. We have the extraordinary business consultant, Lindsay Sutherland, on. How you doing, Lindsay?
Awesome. How are you?
Oh man, any better? I'd be in a straitjacket, and a lot of people would agree I need to be in one. So it all works out.
Right? Sometimes life does make us feel like we're going a little crazy. It does indeed. Well,
Yeah.
thanks for having me. I'm super grateful to be here and to share this today with your audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Love to get some backdrop because, our listeners, a lot of times we have this journey that we're trying to build and trying to grow and trying to really have freedom within our lives and our businesses, and the journey sometimes is taking a long time, sometimes it's taking a little time, and then there's that maybe that moment where things just have an aha moment. So I'd love to hear some of those stories where maybe some things you learned along the way and aha moments, and what brought you to be able to really lift the lid off of other people's businesses as well. So love to hear that journey.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you know what? My journey really started, I think, like all of us, in my childhood. I grew up with a service-based business owner or a father. He was a flooring contractor. And, as a child, we always had horses. I grew up, I was very blessed. I got to have horses. But what I never got was to ride them. Go out and feed them all day and clean their stalls. But when I wanted to ride them, Daddy was always busy. I couldn't ever get to do that. And when I would say, but Daddy, you own your own business. I mean, why can't you just take time off? He's like, you don't understand. I got to work. I got to do this. And he was always either chasing clients or servicing clients, right? There was never a time when he could schedule time for the family. And that was made worse, I think, a little bit when my mom passed away. She passed away when I was only 12. And so he had to, he was the primary income earner, but this became even more important for him. I love him. He did such a great job of providing for us as I was growing up, and even getting me out there. I still was involved in rodeo and a lot of extracurricular activities. So all that to say, he still invested his time with me. But as a kid, it's never enough, right? Where kids are naturally the ones who want all the attention. And so I just couldn't understand why he couldn't turn his business off or on as he so chose, right? Why couldn't he go out and do something that was lighting him up, like go on a trail ride with me or whatever? And so with that being said, I believed that what I needed to do was work hard. I believed that that's what the testament of success was. And so I got into the car business. Now, at the time, there was a few years I was like, man, this is not a good idea. But later, after 20 years in the car business, I looked back and I was like, man, this was the best thing I could have done. I got paid to get an education. I learned sales. I learned management. I learned business. I learned finance. I learned all kinds of things in that industry. And most importantly, I learned that being busy and being the top dog wasn't what made my life special. It wasn't what I wanted to do. And it wasn't how I wanted to be a mom. I didn't want to be a parent that was working all the time. I wanted to be able to take time off when my kids needed me. I wanted to be there when they got their owies and all those things that happen with kids. And therefore, the only way I could do that was that I needed to have the same amount of income that I was earning in the car business and the time freedom that my heart desired, right? The only way was passive income. And obviously I have to attest to Robert Kiyosaki. Thank you for him for putting it out there so well and educating so many of us about what that really means and how to go about it. And I think more importantly, moving into 2022, as we're all doing, finding ways so that we can unplug from our business and be able to really have those meaningful moments and be able to say yes to our families is what I think more people are yearning for. That's why, I guess that's my why. That's why I do what I do. That's my mission, is to help service-based business owners be able to step back and be able to say yes, because I couldn't get that from my dad. And I want to be able to help others do that, plus obviously do it for myself. So that's what got me where I'm at today.
Nice. I love that. I love that story. Yeah, love always the why behind the drive for growth and freedom, and you know, certainly I hear the joy and a little bit of that pain that's associated with some of that growth in the childhood and what you want to see, and what, you know, you wanted for your life and what you wanted for your kids. So that's amazing. So that, you know, having a driving force of being able to not only help yourself but others in this journey, that's beautiful. So I appreciate you sharing and being very vulnerable and open to sharing that. So says a lot about you and your character to be able to do that.
Well, thanks. I mean, to me, I feel like it's a burning, like, it's almost a requirement that I do this with my life at this point. I can't explain it any other way. It's beyond a passion. It's borderline obsession.
Yeah. I think we all, as entrepreneurs, have a little bit of a little crazy streak with us. You know, a little obsession. You know, certainly, I think that's the case. And mortgage loan officers out there right now listening, they're like, yes, you know, I'm a little crazy. I got in this business, and yeah, I'm crazy for trying to keep growing this thing. But yeah, so what, you know, as your journey has come and you started to build a help business professionals get some of that growth while also creating freedom for themselves, like what are some of those things that you felt has worked, and what do you think that maybe the biggest obstacle for people to be able to get to that point is?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I think obviously, let me tell you this. I have a program called the My Unplugged Lifestyle Method, and it's 3 components. And I'll just give you a little brief, and then I'm going to pinpoint in on one of those. First is mindset. Like you said, you know, being able to unplug is a mental battle for a lot of us who, especially when we run our own business and we are our business, right? That means that when we are gone, even though we might be physically gone, right? Mentally, we are not. It's hard. It almost takes 2 or 3 days just to unwind and really sink into what a vacation feels like. And then you have that vacation hangover that affects us for like the week after when we get back. So there is a mental aspect to that, and that choice to really be able to let go. And the second one, I think, though, is developing a passive product that aligns with your business and strategically, I guess, builds onto your business. In other words, I'm not an advocate of somebody starting a passive product. Let's say you are a mortgage lender or broker. I wouldn't recommend go start a drop shipping company that has nothing to do with your brand and your business. Like, why divide your attention like that? When what you can really do is pinpoint a passive product that aligns with your mission and what you're doing, but also feeds your business. Okay, so that's kind of what I'm going to come back to in just a moment. And then the third piece of this pie is evergreen marketing strategy, because the last thing you want to do is invest in your time putting together a passive product and then have to go hustle it every day just because now you're determined to make it work. I mean, that's not what I'm about, right? We're about letting go and finding a system that works almost on its own. I mean, obviously I say almost because I mean, there is time and money involved in getting it going, but the theory behind it is to build evergreen marketing strategies so that it can like compound on itself. Podcasting is a great way to do that. I'm sure you see that in your business. So what I would recommend is to start by pinpointing a passive product. And what I want to talk about today a little bit is essentially how would you do that in specifically the niche of mortgages, right? So there's 2 funnels to think about as you're walking into this, I guess, thought process rather. The first funnel is your client's journey. Now, you know, my background's in the car business. So I say they're the tire kickers that are at the beginning of the funnel, right? And so the tire kickers, they come in and what do they need? They need information. They're in that phase where they're still kind of like noodling over what even kind of car they want. You know, maybe they know they need 4x4, but there's a ton of trucks on the market. So which one do they want? They are tire kickers. The next level are those people who are like, okay, I know I want an F-150. Are you a Ford guy?
I'm not, but
what are you? What are you? It's not going to hurt my feelings. I've worked for all of them.
Oh man, you know, trucks. It's always a Ram. Yeah. I'm,
all right, Ram. I worked for a big Dodge dealership. That was the last one. We were the #1 in Arizona, so I understand. So Ram. So let's say you've got your heart set on this Ram now. Now the question isn't what truck are you going to get. The question is, who are you going to buy from, right? So this comes into really now you're looking up reviews, you're looking at dealerships, you're looking at, maybe a friend's referral. Also proximity, there's this know, like, and trust factor. Because let's face it, if you walk into a dealership and you get turned off, that just decided that factor for you, right? You're going to walk somewhere else and buy your truck. And then lastly is the hot buyers, the people who are like, I know what I want. I know who I want. You show up for your appointment and you sign on the dotted line, right? So that's the customer funnel. So one of those aspects when you're looking at your business is to really imagine what your client's going through when they're in that information stage, then they're in the know, like, and trust, and then they're finally in that I'm ready to buy. Now, I don't recommend spending your energy trying to convert tire kickers into deals, right? Because why? They're still out fishing for information. You're going to invest a lot of your time and energy so that they can go shop you, essentially, right? But what we want to do is we want to invest our time into putting out a passive product that can run on its own that attracts those people. And why is that? Because once we put our face and our brand in front of them, now we have evergreen marketing that is in their hands. So when they get to that know, like, and trust factor, who might they call first and who might they call last? That's what I say. We want to control the first and the last conversation, right? Because we all know it's like the first conversation we make that impression and the last one is who they buy from. So we want to be in both places if at all possible. I mean, let's face it, there's countless ways to throw out products in the market, but we want to invest our time and energy into one that works and that's going to drive more traffic into our business, right? Let me give you an example of how I helped a log home company here in North Idaho where I live. They were very unique because they build here in North Idaho, but they deliver anywhere in the world. And they've been in business for 30 years. But when Google started to go geo targeting, like, so for example, if you look up, where do you live, by the way? What part of the country?
I am an hour north of Atlanta.
Atlanta, Georgia. Okay.
Yep.
Hot log home area right there. So let's say you're in Atlanta, Georgia, and you live in the city and you want to build a log home out in the country in your second property. Let's just make up this little story. So you Google log home companies. Google's automatically going to say log home companies near you, or unless you specifically type in where you're moving, North Carolina, let's just say, right? The only way this log home company is going to come up is if they either pay oodles of dollars to be SEO and show up everywhere, which is not their budget. Their budget is a small based business. They're not, Nike, right? They can't just throw money into everything. And so in order to accomplish that, that goes into the evergreen marketing. I helped them develop a marketing strategy that really gave them a global reach. But the key part of this goes back to this funnel. The tire kickers in their industry were information gatherers. They wanted to know what goes into building a log home. Where would I find? How do you know what a good builder is, right? These are all the things. What kind of a log home do I want? Custom or do I want a kit home? There's so many variables, right? So we wrote the ultimate log home planning guide, which was essentially like a wedding planning guide, but for log home builders, for log home people wanting a log home with the dream of a log home. Now, this log home planning guide was going out, and people with log homes, they're usually a year or two out before they build. So this is going out into their hands without having to spend energy and time to convert them into, scheduling. I don't need the salespeople spending all their time talking to tire kickers, right? We want to put our information out there so the tire kickers can walk through their process of information gathering, but yet who are they going to call when they get to that point where they're ready to take the next step? The company that produced this book, right? That put it in their hands. So that's an example of a great passive product that caters to that entry-level tire kicker in the funnel, right? And also produces long-term results because it's now funneling traffic into their business when they're in the buying stage. So that's kind of essentially a visual of what I'm talking about.
Nice. I love it. So what has been some of the, some of the people you work with, have you noticed they're getting into something that's maybe pulling away from their income now because there's too widespread, or kind of like, I think your example was something along, I can't remember what the example was, but it's far from what the mortgage broker does, for example, and they're trying to get into drop shipping, like you said. Like, have you noticed people have come to you and been trying to do that, and then how are you able to channel that, you think, back into to figuring out like that's going to be for them, and maybe some of their passion to be able to have both working in simultaneous action.
Honest to goodness, most people, when they hear passive income, they think it's some sort of snake oil. So most people don't come looking for a passive revenue stream. Those kinds of people are serial entrepreneurs who are already out trying anything and everything they can to make it work.
Right.
Most of the people that come to me are like, okay, here's a good example. One of my clients, Allison, is ready to retire. She's looking at her life going, okay, at some point, I want to just be grandma. Like, I don't want to be wear all these hats and build my business and do this and that. And I don't want to be exchanging time for money in my coaching business. I want to be able to take off time and still make money. I also help, like in this case with the log home company, we had David Sr. who wanted to, he wanted to transition into retirement, and there was two, his sons are taking over, but they're busy in the field, in like building, right, in construction. So they needed to be able to funnel traffic. And obviously, most of the people I work with are established businesses already who are looking for a transition. That's basically the bottom line, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. They're looking to be able to pull back and not switch gears. They're not really interested in like starting all over with something totally new. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're speaking, say a mortgage, let's say for example, a mortgage loan officer comes to you and says, hey, you know what, I'm doing well in mortgages, but hey, I want some passive income. I want to have some freedom. What's that logical next step for someone like that?
So for me personally, I look at the entire business. I'm going to look at the individual and see kind of what is it that they're doing? What is their long-term game? What kind of infrastructure do they have already set up as far as personnel goes? Because part of that is we want to develop a product that doesn't require hiring more people. Yeah. However, on that same token, what is their availability? If they're writing the loans and they're really immersed in their business, it's going to be a little bit harder for them to get a passive product off the ground by wearing multiple hats. But if they have a secretary or an assistant that they can have do some of the legwork and the startup back end kind of stuff, more or less, then it's a lot easier. And so I need to know those types of things going into it. We're going to have a consultation. We're going to kind of pinpoint those things and then take it to the next step. I'm going to walk them through. I have 2 client funnels. We're going to walk through to determine where would be the most important place and what kind of information or asset, I guess, like, an ebook or something like that would make the most sense in that business. And then we're going to talk about how to market it. So all of that goes kind of hand in hand. But in cases specifically to mortgages, for example, one of the things that I often think about, and even going through my journey in the car business, is people get really scared when and I'm thinking from the client perspective, I'm talking about from a client perspective. Yes. People get really scared when it comes to these big decisions, buying a house, buying a car. What are some of the things I would ask you to think this through? What are some of the questions that these people are asking? What are some of their fears? What are some of their concerns? How could you disseminate information that could really walk people and hold their hand? Now, whether they end up buying from you or using you as a mortgage lender, because I don't know, you have to tell me, are the new mortgage laws set up so that you have to be licensed by state?
Yes.
Okay. So what's interesting is you can, even though you're licensed by state, so you're a little bit restricted in that respect, you could still have a passive income stream that is serving people all over the country, right? You don't necessarily have to be only in Arizona or wherever. And so this is why I would help you develop those things that those people are walking through. And the coolest part about it is you could be benefiting from people anywhere in the country and feeding your business.
Yeah.
Obviously, if they're in your backyard, all the more reason you've just established yourself as the authority in your industry. And so then all the more reason for them to trust you.
Yeah. What do you think the mental hurdle is for people really doing that? And maybe even more specifically, I mean, has there been, when you speak to someone, is it hard to get them past that? Okay. This is how we accomplish this without adding more stress and more time and everything else. So is that something that I'll tell you what, ice is coming down off my roof here. It snowed. I don't know if it snowed where you're at, but snowed, which is rare in Georgia. And I literally, there's ice coming down off the roof. So I was like, what the heck is that? Either that or Santa's late. So could be. I mean, I know I didn't get enough presents, so he may be around. But now I lost my train of thought there. But yeah, I mean, what's maybe some of those hangups with these, entrepreneurs or people that are going into entrepreneurship, or some people that I know sometimes, by the way, I think mortgage loan officers sometimes they don't really look at themselves as an entrepreneur, which they really should, simply because it's a business within inside a business, and we always try to train that, being a loan executive officer instead of a loan officer, which is, you may be under a company, however you're really running a business within inside a business, which is really what's cool with the loan game. You can obviously run your own company, but it's really just, it's a unique setup, the way you can just plug in and start a business within inside a business. But, as there been hangups you've noticed, or maybe some things that you've been able to kind of push somebody past of that hang up of doing this passive income, and maybe not being so hung up with it's so complicated, just take that next step, etc.
So I think some of the biggest questions is, will it really work for me? And I think that's what makes my program so unique, is because I'm not advocating just starting anything. I literally look at analytics. We do keyword research. Like, I get into the weeds, so to speak, and help you pinpoint, and not only help you, but teach you how to pinpoint exactly what people are searching for, and then develop a product around it. Now, the next piece is the marketing. A lot of times people think, oh, I could just build a Shopify store, or I could build this, or I could build that. But we all know you could build it, but that doesn't mean they're going to come. I mean, it is completely the antithesis of that. Just because you went and got your license doesn't mean you get clients right away, right? Now, you might get lucky and get some leads from your broker and some things like that, but you still have to work for them. And so it's the same thing with a passive revenue system. It has to have a system. You have to have, but you want it to be peopleless, essentially, right? You don't want to sell an ebook that you have to print and you have to package and you have to send. You want it to be like downloadable, so it's easy for people to get, right? Or whatever the case may be. The biggest hurdle I see is the, will it work for me? And I don't know how to get started. Well, obviously that's why they're talking to me, is because they don't know how to get started. They come wanting to know how to get more time.
Yeah.
And how will it work? And the thing of it is, the interesting thing is, they feel a little bit safer, I think, knowing that I have the experience and I'm looking at it so scientifically. I think that gives them that ability to overcome that hurdle, because they're not feeling alone, right? So that's the difference, I think ultimately is helping people kind of walk them through, just like what you're doing, helping walk them through to build.
I think you hit a key point there, is emotional catalyst, right? I think that we are all emotional catalysts as salespeople, as business professionals in any nature, and coaches, because just like that's the reason why you probably want to invest with a financial advisor, for example, because, there's so many emotions involved and we can't get out of our own way. That's why, you need coaches, because even though it's kind of like, it's kind of the old adage, the lawyer says, if you represent yourself, you represent a fool for a client.
It's just kind of setting ourselves up that way. But the unique thing is, here's the way I look at it. At some point in time, lending is going to feel fill in the blank. Is it going to feel stale? It might feel like a burden. You might just kind of want to take a step back. And if you don't have people who can fill in for you to the level that you feel safe letting them fill in for you, right? Because that's a huge release, letting go. Then you're put in a position where you only have one other alternative. Now, maybe you're really good at investing. I mean, passive investing is definitely something that people can do as well. But passive investing isn't going to drive customers to your business either. So, there's just multiple ways of doing it. And I'm just focusing on this one particular one.
Yeah, make money while you sleep. And you're right about the car. So I was, last time I bought a vehicle, I just thought it was, gosh, of course, I just noticed these things as being a coach and just running my own business practice, is that, I'm sitting there and he's writing all this paperwork up and he's doing all this stuff, and it's taking like all this time, right? And I'm like, why don't you have an assistant to do this stuff, because you could go sell. And of course the client's like, hey, they came in for him, like, oh, just a little bit late, and he's over there with us for the next hour, this paperwork, trying to get it together. It's just the same thing we see over and over in other businesses and the loan game, right? Because people just don't get out of their own way. And I think, there's all the way until, hey, can we create a system that has the team in place that we can take those times off? And then can we maybe put a passive income to where we're making money in our sleep? And when we build a team and we build this, other funnel, we can make money while we sleep, which is the most beautiful thing in the world when it comes to making money. You're not involved in everything and you're making the money. So I agree. And I think somebody should have some multiple streams, but not take away from what they can. I think that's the biggest mistake I see all the time, is somebody is in loan practice. Well, let me go do this and let me go do this. And I'm kind of doing this. And, we see it with real estate agents the same way. It's like, okay, you've never really got proficient at one thing. So we get proficient at that, build a team, then let's add on things that still don't create a focus deficit, so where you can still make both work for you, rather than now it's like, okay, well, I got these 4 different things, and my business partner called it the king of the dip bleep because he said everybody was sitting there saying, oh man, you're the best thing since sliced bread. He had like 4 or 5 different things going on, but none of them were doing great, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's my biggest thing I want to make sure these mortgage loan officers know and they're listening to is to get really proficient and good and build a team and create these things that are not going to take away from what you're doing. And I think a lot of times that becomes, people just want to feel good about what they're doing. And so they want others to recognize they're doing all these things, while it's still not really building up what income and freedom and growth they can have, because they're so spread. And it's like, okay, I'm really good at 4 different things. Okay, but you're not really good at one. And that one would pay you a lot more than 4. Let's get the one really good. Let's build that team, and then let's put some things on it that are not going to take away from the first one, unless you're just going to replace that one and go do something else. So that's the biggest advice too. I can tell these loan officers is to stop doing that, and use some system you got, and sit down with a professional that's going to be able to guide you along for the next step. The famous quote I love, which I quoted today, Martin Luther King Jr., you don't have to see the whole staircase. You just have to take the first step, right? And so the first step is if you're looking at that, is sit down with a professional like Lindsay here and going, hey, what do you think that would work, that's not going to take away, that's actually going to build with my business and be able to make this passive income and create a growth and freedom strategy.
Absolutely. Well, and likewise, clearly you've gotten to a point where you're helping other people do that. And that's really what it's about, is, disseminating information with the intent to help, and doing that in an alignment with the strategy or a business practice that you already have is just efficient.
Yeah, exactly.
Just efficient. I offer a free course. If they want to learn more about the My Unplugged Lifestyle method, it's on myunpluggedlifestyle.com. And also I have a podcast, The Passive Income Examiner. You're welcome to tune in there or email me at thepassiveincomeexaminer@gmail.com if you're interested in just chatting.
Awesome. So we will put those in the notes for people to be able to see. If you love what Lindsay's saying here and you think, hey, this is then start listening and start get on our podcast and going through these channels, and then make that click the button and have conversations and start moving forward. So I appreciate you so much for coming on here and sharing, being vulnerable and open and sharing your, your story. Very, very much appreciated. And I love what you had to say. It definitely aligns with the things we teach here at Genius Loan Officer. So thank you so much, Lindsay, for coming on here and sharing.
My pleasure. Thanks, Adam.
Well, you all know the drill. Limited risks equals limited income.